Mayor Scott Gillingham has just returned from a trip to Ottawa where he had meetings with other mayors from other Canadian big cities, but also got a chance to have a sit-down with Prime Minister Mark Carney. Joining us now to tell us more about his trip is Mayor Scott Gillingham. Good morning, Mr. Mayor.
Good morning. Good to be here again.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, a whole week in Ottawa, all kinds of meetings. First of all, let's talk about your meeting with Prime Minister Mark Carney. How did that go?
I think it went well. I mean, we met as a group of big city mayors from across Canada. We all, as mayors, and face the same or similar challenges in our cities. There's really nothing that is unique in Canadian cities. The focus of our meeting with the Prime Minister was really about the federal budget that came out in the fall, and in that budget they announced funding for cities, especially for infrastructure. And we said to the Prime Minister, we need that funding as cities, we need that funding to flow as quickly as possible. For example, we've got a construction season coming up in 2026. We need federal money to be committed and in cases to flow so that we don't miss any aspect of that construction season.
And he was quite receptive, even writing notes and such.
Yeah, he's very attentive for sure. He was writing notes, and federal minister, the housing minister, Gregor Robertson, was also in the meeting, and they were communicating in the meeting about trying to work with mayors, in cities to get this funding moving.
And extortion was something that came up that you'd like to see sort of a federal mandate on extortion. Tell us why that is important, not just here, but across the country.
There are two cities where extortion is really a problem in Canada, Brampton and Surrey, and the mayors of those cities are, in this group that I'm in. But also we've seen extortion here in Winnipeg. In fact, if you remember, just a couple of weeks ago, the Winnipeg Police Service arrested 5 individuals on extortion charges. They're alleged to have been involved in extortion that has impacted some local small businesses. And so it is a problem in Canada. It's a big problem in Brampton and Surrey, but it's becoming a problem here. The rings that are involved in this extortion, it plays out locally, but some of it is kind of international in its scope and maybe even international. And so we need the federal government, the Canada Border Service Agency, all the police services, the RCMP to be working together. I know our Winnipeg Police Service is on this. They're working in partnership already with the RCMP and other kind of national entities to try to get a handle on this and to stamp it out.
Are you looking for punishments as well for some of these people involved in extortion?
Well, certainly anyone who's involved in crime, should be arrested for sure and held to account for the crimes that they would commit, if indeed, convicted. But because this is not just a localized issue, extortion is something that there seems to be connections, throughout Canada to some of these rings. We really need, more than the Winnipeg Police Service to be involved in helping to get a handle on this. And so that was really our call as mayors, is to call on the federal government to use all of its powers and agencies to work with local municipal police services and the RCMP to identify these individuals, prevent it, identify the individuals, arrest where appropriate, convict.
There was another major arrest this past weekend on a chronic retail theft offender as well. What is your stance or your thoughts on the fact that they're continuing to catch these people?
Well, it shows the work that our police service is doing to focus on retail crime and other crime as well. I know not that long ago there was another drug bust, and so our police service, we've added more police officers. We've made bigger investments in the Winnipeg Police Service, and our police service is working hard to reduce crime and to hold, to identify these individuals who are committing crime and causing problems in our city, and even certainly violent offenses in our city, to identify them, arrest them, make sure that they get to trial, and where convicted, they need to be held accountable.
Okay, let's talk about the federal gun buyback program and what your stance is on that.
Well, the federal government rolled out a federal buyback program for illegal guns, and personally, I think there's legal gun owners, and they're not the problem. The problem is the illegal guns, some of which are pouring across the border from the United States. However, our police service, the mayor and council do not direct the Winnipeg Police Service, and our police service chose to participate in the program, and in doing so, they've signed up with the federal government to receive the funds to cover the cost of that. And I support the police in that. The Winnipeg taxpayers should not pay for a federal program.
Okay.
And so we've entered into an agreement with the federal government that the compensation or the costs associated with operating that program will be fully covered by the federal government. And I support the police in that decision.
Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for giving us some time again this morning. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.